will join us. So tonight's a very major session. I hope your network won't break, any of you, because there's a good chance it might not be shared again, unless for some reason I am spoken to actually share it, because I'm going to deal with very, very important secrets here. And this is really the, what can I call it? Have you ever heard of El Dorado? El Dorado is known as the city of God in legends. And many people sought El Dorado for a while and they never got to find it. And I kind of feel this is more of a bit of that. Today, this is where the money happens. You know, this is what we would call the Midas touch. King Midas in Greek stories is the man that got gifted that whatever he touched would turn into gold. Unfortunately, one day he touched his daughter and she turned to gold, and he had to go back and ask for help so that, you know, the daughter would be brought back to him. Okay, really proving the value that people are actually more valuable than gold. So tonight's that particular session where I'm going to share with you things that you really need to take notes about, because many people have figured out how to make money, but not many people know how to become wealthy. Not so many people know how to become rich. And those of you may ask yourself, "But how do you know this? You're not like a millionaire and whatnot." But I can tell you this: I am heading there, and I'll tell you why I know I'm heading there. And this is how you actually get to the top. And I believe in each and every one of you that's here. So if you are here, give yourself a pat on the back. Congratulate yourself for being in tonight's session. I believe you're going very far. I believe you're going to be the people that are going to transform Zambia and the world at large. Because what I'm going to share tonight is not just for any person. It's for people that are deliberate, people that are passionate, people that want to make sure that they have the best chance in life to be able to build wealth. You know, and I hope you're excited. If you're excited, you want to get started, just go ahead and type the number 1 in the chat box. Let me see that. Go ahead and just type number 1. Say I'm 1 excited. Yes. Let me see some engagement in the chat to ensure that you're following. Okay, thank you. I see a 1 from Kasiki. Thank you so much. Let me see a 1 from Tisa. Great. A yes from Maimbo. Thank you. Awesome. A great number 1 from Andrew. Great. So we get started. It's great to see Charity. It's great to see Andrew. It's great to see you, Tisa. Let's move on. So a bit about net worth. So what is then net worth? So according to Investopedia, net worth is defined as the value, the asset a person or corporation owns minus the liabilities they owe. I'll say that again. That's the value, the assets a person or corporation owns minus the liabilities they owe. If you've ever heard about Forbes magazine, Forbes under 30, you hear that, no, this person is worth $1 million, this person is worth $1 billion. When they do that, what they actually talk from is not liquid cash. They talk from a place of their net worth. So they look at how many assets this particular person owns and they value those assets, and are able to come up with a close estimate as to how much that person is worth. So that's what wealth is calculated in today. So whether businesses have the net worth. As a corporation, it has its own net worth because it's an entity. Even a person can have your own net worth. And in the first episode of the ICD entrepreneurs meetings, I looked at how you can build a startup to maturity. And one of the things that I was able to talk about was how it's important for you to be able to build your personal wealth plan. So you need a personal wealth plan, and you also need a plan for your business. And you need to build your net worth at the end of the day. So then it is an important metric to gauge a company's health. That's what it is as well. So when you want to gauge whether a company is healthy, if you're looking to invest in a company, one of the things you may be looking for is what assets they own, you know, and what particular worth they have when it comes to their assets. So if you want to know if this is a profitable company, one of the things that investors look for is what assets do you own, okay? And if you're a startup, you're looking to build to a place where you're investment ready, you need to ensure that you are thinking of building your assets as a startup. Because if you can build your assets, your level of investment readiness grows to another level. It also provides a snapshot of the firm's current financial position. Those of you who have some background in accounting, you look at the balance sheets, what they call financial statements. So when you talk about the financial statement, it talks about how profitable or the position of a company at that particular point. And assets are a big part of that particular financial statement. Talk about fixed assets, variable assets. So it also gives you a firm snapshot, of that particular firm's current financial position. So that's what net worth is about. And today we're looking at how you can build your net worth through building assets, and not just any assets. I'm going to share with you 9 major assets tonight that I tell you, write them down. Make sure that you get to do at least 4 of these, or even 8 or 9. Trust me, if you want to build wealth, consider how you grow your knowledge in understanding these investments. Many people will tell you to invest, but very few times have I heard people tell you to say, this is what you should be investing in. And that's why I feel tonight's session is very unique. It's also the reason why, if I feel very generous, I may share it only for a day or 2, but it's going to be taken off because this is super, super serious value. You could pay thousands in dollars for this information if someone was to break this down for you. But I want to make sure I give you the best because I believe in Zambia and I believe in the people that are pushing entrepreneurship today. So let's move on. So what will we look at tonight? So tonight we're going to look at 2 particular things. The why of investments in assets. Okay, so why are we supposed to invest in assets and what type of assets are we investing in? I'm also going to go further and going to look at what we're here for tonight, the content for tonight. That's the 9 major investment options for building your net worth. How many of you in here want to become a millionaire or a billionaire? Just go ahead and type in the chat box, me. Let me see that. How many of you want to actually become a millionaire? Maybe this is not for you, or you want to be known as a billionaire or as a business mogul. Okay, I see some me's in the chat box from Maimbo, me from Chishimba, me from Andrew. Yes, this is great. Me from Seva's iPhone, me from Charity Miti. Great. Me from Tisa. Great. We have a lot of millionaires in the house tonight. We have a lot of billionaires, people. And well, this is your step towards becoming that particular person. Because if you understand the why of investments that I'm going to share with you very soon, then you're on your way to beginning your journey to become this millionaire. Those of you joining, you're very welcome. I see Shibi. It's great to have you here. So now let's make progress. So I'm going to share with you the why, then I'm going to share with you the 9 major investment options. Make sure you stay to the end. This is going to be very important for you. So why we need to invest in assets? That's the question we must be asking ourselves. Now, history's most famous scientist is said to have once described compound interest as the 8th wonder of the world. Okay, this was Albert Einstein, people. He defined or described compound interest as the 8th wonder of the world. He understands it, says he who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. I want you to be among the people that actually earns it. And let me explain this. So you might be asking yourself then, what is compound interest? And I'm going to share that in a while. So one of the most simplistic ways of me to be able to define for you compound interest is that your money works for you. Okay, your money works for you. Someone in the ICD groups made a funny comment and said, you're sounding like Robert Kiyosaki. I'm like, well, if you're saying the right stuff, I'm going to say the right stuff. But this, what I'm teaching you, is something that I have seen, vividly studied, researched on, and this is working. And I have become an investor, and I've been investing, and I'm growing my net worth. And I want to share with you some of these things. So then, what is compound interest? Compound interest, this is interest that builds upon itself. And let me give you an example. If you went and deposited 1,000 kwacha, all right, and you're told you're going to earn about 8% on that particular amount of money, right? 1,000 kwacha and you earn 8% at the end of the year. It means that after a year, you're going to make an extra 80 kwacha, right? Because 8% of 1,000 is 80 kwacha. But then if you allow that money again to be reinvested, you're now going to be at 1,080. 8% of 1,080 grows. So from the initial percentage you had, you find after about 5 years, you're going to have a 32% increase on your monies because your interests are compounded. Now think about assets in the same way. When you have money, maybe you get it through a job, maybe you get it through your parents, they gift you, and you start investing in assets. Over time, your assets begin to accrue interest if you're investing in the right assets. Your money starts working for you because with time, value of your assets start growing. So he who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. So it means people who don't understand compound interest will end up having to pay for it in their life because they didn't catch this revelation sooner. And this is why it's very important for you to be a person that thinks compound interest in whatever you do. Let me share more on this. So there are 3 rules to get the most out of compound interest. Okay, so make sure you take note of this. Number 1, reinvest the dividends. So dividends are normally the profits you get from a capital investment. So reinvest the dividends. So in any point, when you're thinking of compound interest, you have to be thinking of reinvesting. I gave you an example of how you have that 1,000, you make an 80, you reinvest that, it's going to grow, and then again you reinvest that, it's going to grow. Now, the different types of assets, I'm going to share that with you. The second rule of compound interest is invest over the long term. Okay, so compound interest grows with time. One of the things that you need to know that for you to become a millionaire, to become a billionaire, you need to quit actually wanting fast things, things that are short term. That's why I'm against what they call short, small hustles if they become your big hustle. You know what I mean? Where you only do small things. Because at the end of the day, you're just employing yourself and you're just making quick monies, quick bucks. But that's a very unstable way of earning. And that's the same reason why number 2 is a valid point. An 8 to 5 job is not an asset but can be a means to some. But before I get to that, so you need to make sure that you invest over a long term. Your investment must have long-term acquisitions. Not everything must pay you immediately. I am not saying that you stop in making these small hustles. They may be good to get certain stuff done. You know what I mean, right? But for a person that's thinking long term, that's thinking growing their net worth, you must become comfortable with long-term investments. The third rule about a compound interest is keep adding money. Okay, keep adding money to what you're doing. So that's the third rule of a compound interest. I'm going to just advise that we all ensure that we have our mics off so that I'm not consistently uh, having to mute you on my end. Okay, so that's great. Awesome. Hope we are following. Because I'm a bit fast, maybe I might consider giving you this recording for 2 days. Okay. An 8 to 5 job is not an asset, but can be a means to some. Someone asked in the group to say, wait, so a job is not an asset. Well, so this is my response. It's not an asset. Okay. It can be a means to some. There's what they call labor-centered assets. So in some way, someone would want to define a job as an asset, but for my stand, I say a job is not an asset. Why? It's very unstable. No one can really be. It's not a guaranteed. It's not a guaranteed or secured position. Hey, you can't pass your job to your family. That's why it's not an asset. You can't say, okay, I'm going to allow this job to be inherited by my junior, my son after I pass. You can't pass on your job. But these assets, these compound assets, can be passed down to your posterity, to people that take over from you. But a job, yes, can be a means to some assets. Some people have done this. It's not my approach, but some people have used jobs to raise the capital to start investing in different assets that I'm going to share with you. And you can also take that route. If you're a person that loves career, it could work for you. If you're a career person, you could be building your career, but do not lose sight of investment, because at the end of the day, you only build so much wealth and build your net worth when you actually have assets that you're investing in. I hope I'm clear. The third thing is the rich build assets with compound interest. The poor build labor-centered assets. Okay, the poor are going to start building small assets. Just give me some money, whatnot, and I'll give you back this amount of money, and just short-term assets. But when it comes to, thank you, Shibi says it's clear. When it comes to you building compound assets, that's when you become a person that's thinking like the rich, that's thinking wealth-centered. I'll share with you some of the assets that I'm sharing through the 9 major sessions. Oh, and by the way, I promised you last week that we're going to be able to, because we have a license that we normally use for Zoom, but we haven't yet renewed it. So in case we cut off at any point, we'll have to do that again. We just got overwhelmed with the team, and we're going to do that for the next session, hopefully. But anyway, we're still going to go through with the session so that you get the biggest value from this. If you have understood this part, let me just get in the chat box a yes if I can move to the next slide. Are you ready to get into the 9 major asset investment options? Let me get some yeses in the chat box so that I start sharing 9 major asset options. Okay, so I've got 1 yes. Okay, from Chishimba, thank you. Another yes from Hendrix, great. Another yes from Andrew, ready from Andrew. Okay, great. Yes from Tisa. Thank you all very much. So make sure you get ready. If you're in a crowd, say brace yourself, have your seat belt ready. I'm about to start sharing with you trade secrets on how you are going to become that person that's going to become a millionaire, that's going to become a business mogul, that's going to be called a techpreneur, whatever level you want to accomplish. There's what they call a bourgeoisie. And this is the mindset you need to have. So now let me start sharing with you. So 9 major asset investments that you could get started with in investing and in building your net worth as a person. Okay, 9 major asset investments. So the first thing I want you to note is that there are 3 types of these compounding assets, or I call them compounding assets. As you've heard, Albert Einstein called compounding interest the 8th wonder of the world. He compared it to the Victoria Falls. You know, he compared it to the Great Wall of China. He says in his lifetime, and he's one of the greatest scientists to have lived, he said when it comes to compounding interest, it's the 8th wonder of the world, because he's seen how very few people actually reach the top. You know that the billionaires in the world today, there's only about 3,000 billionaires in the entire world. I go to Bread of Life and we've got a 6,000 capacity seater building. All the billionaires in the world could fit in that building and it still wouldn't be full. Very few people understand compound interest. Well, there are other people who understand it, but they're only millionaires because of the level. Okay, I share that in one of the articles I've written. When I talk about the difference between people who think like a business person and people who think like an entrepreneur. But that's a story for another day. So these are the 3 types of compounding assets. And some of you have already gone ahead to read. But let me just bring your mindset to collect you here. There's the physical type of assets, there are digital assets, and there are operating business assets. Okay, physical assets, digital assets, and operating business assets. And under physical assets, we've got 3 that I'm going to share a bit more in detail so that you understand. I just want to scratch on the surface for you. But these are the ones. There's physical assets. Some of the top major investments you can make are in precious metals and stones. And I'm going to share a bit about that. You can also invest in real estate. This is land-based assets. You can also invest in cash and cash equivalents. And I'll share a bit more into that. You can also go into digital assets, and this is the easiest for you to start building, especially as a startup, especially as someone who doesn't yet have an extensive capital. You could start by building IPs, and trust me, the IP market is huge. Companies like Facebook mostly are rich because of their IP. They calculate their IP for the most part. And different type of companies, this is where the biggest value is. I'm going to share a bit about IPs. The stock market, and this is also a new thing, cryptocurrency. It's also a way of investing today digitally and being able to get your monies back. I'll share a bit about the famous coin, Bitcoin, and a few others. We talk about operating and business assets. So there's acquisitions, majors, and public. Then there's enterprise building and minority interest. I'm going to share to you about minority interest as well in tonight's session. So just stay tuned. Please make sure you understand this session. Because I'm feeling givey, I might give this to you for just 2 days to be able to go through a replay and make sure you get to eat this. So are you ready? The first thing I'm going to share with you are precious metals and stones and how you get to invest in these. So these are some of them that you may know. There's gold, silver, copper, diamond, ruby, sapphire, emerald, and pearl. And I'm talking to Zambians today. So some of you are saying, but isn't it just the people in the mines that can own gold, that can own sapphire, that can own some of these things? Well, I have some news for you. As a Zambian, you can actually get to start investing in precious metals today. Just the other day, I was interacting with one of the CEO of Kalumbila Cooperatives. As some of you maybe have interacted with them. So the number of youth that came together to form a corporation. And when they form that corporation, they're starting to mine gold and manganese as well. And currently, they're open to people want to join the cooperative be able to own interest and shares. So I actually had a chat with them. I want to make an investment with them. So they're also doing some stuff in agriculture, but they're starting to mine gold and manganese soon. And they're looking for people to buy into that. So if you're a person that wants to make an investment, you could actually join such cooperatives or form such cooperatives and start investing in these particular lines. Trust me, it's possible for you to get to have the license to start mining in Zambia as cooperatives. So you can look them up as well, Kalumbila, see what they're doing, look at what they're doing and try to get informed with them. Those of you in the ICD group, the WhatsApp group, I'm going to share with you just a certain document on cooperatives that might be helpful. If you're not in the group already, let me just do you a favor and share with you the invite link. It's up to you. We don't force you to join that group, but if you want to be part of, you want to make sure you get that. I'm posting in the chat right now. I want to post for you how you can actually. I'm just trying to see if I can. Why my chat option box is not opening. Okay, I want to share with you this particular. I'm sharing right now. So those of you who are not in the group, make sure you can join the group. I've shared the link. I'm going to share with you a document tonight so that you can read more about financial cooperatives and whatnot in Zambia. So if you're looking to invest, you need to be thinking of investing in such things like metals, gold, and silver. And let me tell you why. Did you know, and some of you already know this, that there's what they call fiat money, okay? This is what we use today. This is where we use cash, the kwacha, the dollar. But that kwacha is just a representative of the gold that is stored in central banks, okay? So before fiat money came in, they used to what they used to call the gold standard, and money by then was gold coins, silver coins. It was in precious metals. If you wanted to buy a chicken, you had to trade a few copper coins, nickel coins, gold coins, silver coins to buy things. But then when they moved to fiat money, the government now prints money and says, I promise to pay the bearer on demand. But the problem about having just cash, monetary money, is that over time it loses value because the government can print as much money as they desire. That's why there's now inflation. Those of you who've got a background in economics would understand what I'm talking about. And I hope I'm making it simple for everyone to understand. But gold is still the standard for money. And one of the things about, if any of you have tried gold trading, the rules for gold trading and forex trading are actually different. Because with forex trading, they'll tell you that when everyone is buying, hold your money. When everyone is selling, that's when you should actually hold your currency. Those are some of the rules people tell you as the bottom line. But gold is different. You see, gold sometimes may increase when people actually buy. So there's a different way around it. But for the most part, gold remains valuable and actually increases in value. The worth of gold, as it was, if you buy gold today and maybe you spend $1,000 to buy it, there's a good chance that 10 years from now, that gold is going to be worth more than $10,000. Sorry, I said $1,000 or $10,000. Okay, so let's say you buy $10,000 today. 10 years from now, there's a good chance that same amount of gold in ounces will actually cost maybe even $10,000. Why? Because of inflation. So if you have investments into gold and these precious stones, your value of money can be moved to the future. So it's very important for you to start thinking that. Think of stones, diamonds in carats, rubies, sulfur, emerald, and pearls. These are some of the most precious stones that exist. And you can start investing as a Zambian. Trust me, this is not Greek. It's not something you should think is for the rich only. You just have to be smart. You can go form a cooperative with your friends, get into this, learn the trade in the business, and get into it and start investing. So I've shared with you just one. I hope it's exciting. If you're learning quite a lot, let me get some feedback to say, okay, learning. Let me just get some responses so that I know that you're picking up. And I've got 8 more to go for you. Okay, so like I said, we may have to be cut out at some point. I will definitely get to work on that. But just stay on. Someone says learning, awesome. Learning from Tis as well. Learning a lot from Audrey, great. Learning from Andrew, thank you so much for all those feedbacks in the group. The second type of investment I want you to be thinking about. So maybe you say, okay, gold for me, maybe I don't want to start now in gold and precious metals, but I feel I want to start investing. Well, you can think of investing in real estate. So when you talk about real estate, we're talking about land. I thank God I happen to own a piece of land. It's quite some amount of land that I own right now. and that particular land is in my name, and its value is growing with time. And if I thought of reselling that land, I probably would make a profit from it. And you can start investing in land. It's not too hard to actually get land. Sometimes you can actually apply for land at the Ministry of Land, and you may be given land for at a loan. Sometimes even for free. Okay, so someone is saying confirmation. This is definitely the direction. Thank you, Hendrix. So you can actually apply for land. Right now, the Ministry of Lands in Zambia is actually offering opportunities for youth to apply for land in the youth initiative. And they've got lands they want to give youth. As long as you're thinking of getting to agriculture and whatnot, you can go apply. So I already have a piece of land, but I'm also taking up initiatives to go and apply for certain land. So I don't have to buy everything. The government has got initiatives to empower youth. You can be part of that. So go to the Ministry of Lands today and find out, I'm a youth, I'm passionate, I've got this and these ideas. How can I get started? They're going to help you out with that. We're talking about also built environments. Sometimes you can invest in building environments like hotels. You can build amusement parks. Some of you have been to Tiffany's Canyon. They make lots of money because they've built a built environment. They have a man-made lake there, and people pay lots of monies. I mean, the amounts of monies you pay. There's one day I organized a trip to Tiffany's Canyon, and in one day we paid over 25,000 kwacha in one day. Okay, that was one day, and that was coming from the team that I went with. 25,000 kwacha. Now, picture, we were not the only teams that were there. In one day, those people were raking in the hundreds of thousands in just one day, and because they've invested in a built environment. So this is also a way you can. But this, someone says, okay, no, you don't have that money yet. Well, you could start from owning land, and then you can have. For me, I've come to realize it's very easy to do this because I write pitches, I present to investors. I've got some investors on board before. And one of the things I realized that if you have an idea and you start building it, you put the business plan, you build the pitch deck, sometimes all you need is to just present to the people with the money, and you can negotiate with them and actually get to invest in that. Also talking about houses. Sometimes houses may be a good way to invest. Sometimes they may not be. So you need to be careful to invest in the right type of housing and also to invest at the right time. Because sometimes a house may tie up all your monies. So I advise for you to invest in a house. Invest in a house when you've built your liquidity in cash, where you can easily then go ahead and buy a house and be able to mock up on that house as an investment. That's one way to build your assets as well. Hope we're learning. Let me move to the third type here. Cash and cash equivalents, okay? Cash and cash equivalents. So one of the things you need to know is cash and cash equivalents. Cash is this that I've talked about, the fiat money and whatnot. If you've looked at your financial statement, cash is listed on the assets that you have. So cash is an asset. And sometimes you having cash readily available can be beneficial for you, okay, because it's considered as an asset. As a business, one of the things they're going to look at as your cash flow. They're going to find out, okay, how much do you have as cash at hand when investors are looking to invest in you as a business. So they're going to see how much cash you have as liquid. And I say as liquid because this is cash that can easily be used to pay for bills, to pay for a service. So as a business, as an individual, you want to have certain cash available to you. You don't want all your money to be tied up in things, in assets that are not that liquid. So you need some level of liquidity. Like I said, Bill Gates doesn't have that entire 100 and 52 billion with him. Most of that cash is in different assets, but it's not liquid cash. And occasionally, a business person and owner can decide to liquidate some of their assets and actually take it to a place where they have cash at hand. And this is one of the things I'll teach you. As a business, when you're growing, at times it may look as if you are not making too much money, but you find 2 years, 3 years down the line, your assets have grown. And sometimes all you need to do is liquidate your assets. And if you liquidate your assets, you actually have cash at hand. But there's also something I need to interest you in, what is known as money markets. Okay? Money markets. This sounds like an economics class, sorry, or an accounts class or a finance class right now, but I hope I'm making it simpler to understand. So there's what they call the financial markets. There are a lot of people today talking about becoming money savvy, finances, and whatnot. So some of the things that you may want to read on, and if you're taking notes, write financial markets. And among financial markets, there's money markets, there's capital markets as well. So now let me talk a bit about what money markets are. So with money markets, these are where you are able to get money. This is where monies are borrowed for less than 1 year. Can be 3 months or less. Okay, and the famous type of money markets that are there are one, TBs, which are treasury bills. Did you know that the Bank of Zambia produces treasury bills? And what's a treasury bill? A treasury bill is this. This is where the Bank of Zambia needs to borrow from the public. And investors that have money can buy those treasury bills at a discounted price. So for example, if I go buy a treasury bill that is worth 1 million kwacha, all right, I may buy it at let's see, 950,000 kwacha, and maybe that's a treasury bill that matures in a year. So it's worth 1 million. I'll buy it at the 950,000 kwacha. But when the Bank of Zambia pays me back in a year, they're going to give me 1 million. It means within a space of 1 year, I would have earned 50,000 kwacha based on my investment. So these are short-term investment. That's what TB is about. There's also CDs, which are certificates of deposits. For those of you in the ICT group, I'm also going to share with you a document by the Bank of Zambia that deals with investing in government securities. It's going to help you a lot. Please take time to read. I'm sharing with you detailed stuff. So if you're not in the group, I've shared the link. Make sure you're in the group so that you can benefit from the documents I'll send. I'll send you 2 documents. I promise to. I'll make sure I send them to you. So you can understand more on government securities. I won't overtake time because I can see already moving through time, and we've got less than 20 minutes, I would say, because we end at 21:30. So it may cut, and we'll have to re-sign in. But if you're enjoying this, let me just get people typing number 2 in the chat box to see that you're following. Let me get some tools before I cover the second part, the 4th one today. Number twos. Let me see the chat. Are we engaged? Are these things making sense? Are they confusing you? Okay, I see a number of tools. Thank you from Audio Teaser, Patience, Kasiku, thank you. Great from Hendrix. Awesome. You're a great team, you're a great class. Appreciate you all. So let's move to the 4th type of investment you can be making. Intellectual property. This by far for me is one of the best, because I believe any person in the world can actually raise intellectual property if you take time to really think and really invest in getting to do something. There is no excuse to not have an asset. Even if you are saying you're broke, it doesn't take too much for you to build an intellectual property, something that can become so valuable that people buy. And trust me, I was looking at statistics about how intellectual properties are valued. And do you know that the statistics are beginning to show that many top companies today are actually, most of their wealth is calculated in intellectual property. Did you know that? That some of the ideas that companies have is mostly IP. Have you ever seen the wipers on a car? That wiper that wipes the rain when it's falling. Do you know the company, the person who came up with that idea, to now his family is still benefiting from that intellectual property. It's great to see Loretta joining. We expected you earlier, but hopefully I've been generous. I said I might get to share this session to you for 2 days, to the people for 2 days. But let me make progress. Intellectual property is vital, all right? And there are 3 types I'm sharing with you today, because I talked to you about 9 things, and I'll share with you the 3 types you can invest in starting today. The first are trademarks, okay? Trademarks. And what is a trademark? And let me share with you. So a trademark is really something that's recognizable, like a sign, a design, or an expression that you can own. So it's recognizable, it's recognized as unique, and you can own it. It can be a sign, it can be a design, it can be an expression. It could be your logo that's trademarked. No one can use it around the world. Okay, it could be the designs that you have for systems. It could be an expression. Okay, great. So intellectual property, they're probably known as trademarks. Okay, trademarks, like I've said, are signs, designs, expressions. It could be maybe something like Coco's Chill, Mapalo's visions, you know, and that particular trademark becomes valuable with time because of the brand I build around it. So it's not too hard to build a trademark. There's actually a person who owns the trademark for become what they call a virtual expert. You can't use that term anyhow because someone went and trademarked that. Can you imagine? So there are things you can actually trademark. and they will work for you. And for anyone to use it around the world, they'll need to license it from you. And nowadays, people have begun to value IPs as well and be able to assess how much value a company owns because of the IPs that they have, the intellectual property they have. As a startup, you can build IPs. I'm a person that has built a number of IPs and I'm still building that as well. ICD entrepreneurs, idea capital development entrepreneurs is something we have, and we do that. And around the world, if you want to use that idea capital development, well, you gotta talk to us properly. Patents. This is where you trade. Oh, I won't say trademark. This is where you patent or protect an idea. So this is the idea of how things are done. You can have a patent, for example. I saw someone who has a patent on being able to put a digital key on a lock. You know these locks that we have, these padlocks. So instead of using a key, you can use a number, a code. Someone actually has a patent for that. Can you imagine? So it's about patenting your idea. There are people who've got patents for the most funny things at times, and you can't actually do that without their licensing to you. So sometimes you can actually think of something you can patent. If your idea is very unique, it's not been done before, you're thinking of building this way that people can do one or two things, you can go to the patents and registration company known as PACRA in Zambia and talk to patent attorneys, and they can help you write that down. And you can patent your idea. And once your idea is valuable to people, people have to pay for it. I saw another person who has a patent on being able to afford a guitar, meaning that you can't have affordable guitar unless you actually get the license from them. You can't create such a guitar. So there's different ways. You can own intellectual property and have it valued, and it can work for you. So start building IPs. You can have copyrights as well. One of the things I own 5 mobile games as a person, and it comes in very handy as well. So you can own copyrights, you can own intellectual properties through ideas that you have that are unique. I hope you're learning. The fourth thing is the stock markets. Okay, so the fifth thing. So the fifth type of investment you can be looking to get into is the stock market. And when you talk about the stock markets, we look at stuff like stocks, bonds, and options. So stocks pretty much this is where you can own shares, okay, in the public setting of a certain company. You can own shares in Lumwana Mines. You can own shares in different companies that are public companies out there, in Zanaco, in different businesses out there. You can own shares in Tradekins because they're a public company. So you can actually start owning stocks in different companies. And the way for you to do that is to go to Lusaka Stock Exchange if you're based in Lusaka. So you go to stock markets and you can find out what stocks are available. Now, obviously, there's an art to this. So I'd advise you that you study in a bit before you actually get into investing into stocks. Because sometimes, like for example, during this COVID-19, the certain stock prices that went down. And this is actually a very good time for you to invest in certain stocks. If you have some extra cash and you are good at being able to predict the market, you could actually invest in a certain business whilst the prices have gone down. And when the economy starts stabilizing, your value of that particular interest share that you own in that company will grow. And then you can resell some of those stocks and be able to use the extra profit to invest in other things. Doesn't that sound like a brilliant idea? So be able to, if this is something of interest, it sticks out to you among the things I've shared, if number 5 sticks out to you, you can consider looking up the Lusaka Stock Exchange and be able to see what stocks you can invest in. Bonds, this is more of debt. These are how, for example, there's what they call government bonds. Okay, they're different from the money markets I shared. Money markets are under 1 year, but bonds can go for years. So government also has what they call government bonds. You can invest in the government over a certain period of time, and you're going to earn interest on your bonds. And then other different stock options that you're going to find. So let me just advise you, go and read on the stock market. Number 6, cryptocurrency. I tried this to be sometime last year and a bit this year. I took a bit of interest in learning about cryptocurrency and how it operates. And you know, cryptocurrency is built on, how can I put it? I want to use the right way. It's what's the word? I want to use this particular right way. So there's a system around cryptocurrency. Okay, this is how you're able to protect uh, assets through use of ledgers, and it's a way that whenever, I don't know how I can put it. There's a word that I'm supposed to say to you right now, but for some reason it's escaped me. If it comes back to me, I'm going to use that. But well, for the most part, it's digital currency, and it's different from the central bank type of money because this one is a decentralized way of actually owning money. Everyone is a ledger. Everyone has got a ledger of how things are done. When you talk about fiat money, like the ones we use, like cash, kwacha, dollar, whatnot, only the central bank can produce more bills. Only the central bank holds the actual ledgers of how many bills are out there. But with cryptocurrency, everyone owns a ledger. And whenever a new bill is created, what they call mining, okay, crypto mining, whether it's in Bitcoin, there are those who mine it. So it's not only a central person that can create new Bitcoin, and there's a limit to how many Bitcoin can actually exist. And one Bitcoin today should go for, I think, about $1,000 and something dollars, or more than that, if I'm not mistaken. But the value of a Bitcoin is very high. Just one Bitcoin today. But it wasn't always like that. That people invested in it earlier, and sometimes it's crashed. But for the most part, the Bitcoin market seems to do very fine. And many people actually consider in having some monies in Bitcoin investments as well. And if you want to get to do that even in Zambia, make sure you have a passport, because if you register with the Bitcoin space, make sure you have a passport and whatnot. But you also need to read a bit into that. But I've tried registering a Bitcoin account as well, and I've still been evaluating. For me, I only invest in things when I fully understand them. I do understand the Bitcoin market to a great extent, and it's a lucrative business, and I intend to do that. So some of you with interest in crypto, you can begin to look at it as an option. There's also different other major coins apart from Bitcoin that you can also begin to review. And there's some minor coins. Even Akon has got a coin called Acoin, Akon the musician. So you'll be able to look at cryptocurrency. It may be a way for you to invest some of your extra funding. Remember, we started this conversation talking about compounded interest, where money starts working for you. So you make an investment today, tomorrow it's growing. And that's how you build wealth that grows over time. And you need to know when to sell, when to hold some of those assets. Number 7. So we are down to 7, then 8, then 9, then we're done for the night. So let me talk about acquisitions, mergers, and going public. Okay. So what are acquisitions? This is where you are able to buy an entire company. So if you're an investor, sometimes you may invest and buy a company. You can say, okay, I like what Cassie's Cakes are doing. Let me offer them a deal and buy it. As Make Life, we're looking to start doing some of these acquisitions. There's a big program we're working, and we're working it with another company within Zambia that's been in existence longer than we are. We're coming up with an agreement to be able to do some of this. So you can actually buy out companies. You like what they're doing, you can acquire them and they become your assets. So when you acquire a company, you may actually acquire it together with some of the intellectual property and whatnot. Then there's also what is known as a major. Yesterday, I took with a meeting with entrepreneurs, I touched a bit on majors. A major is where two corporate companies can actually join to become one. For example, Atlas Mara was formed by two companies, which is Finance Bank and Bank ABC. So they came together, and what that did, it meant that they have shared assets now in their major. And you find that's also another way to build your net worth. So meaning that the value of Atlas Mara grew. So if you are not competitive enough in your business, two of you, if you're smaller banks, smaller businesses, you're in this particular business, maybe you do, for example, I think Shemba does cakes, and you realize that you want to get a better advantage in the market because maybe the market is brutal. You can find someone else who you can actually do a major with, and you measure your assets. You can go to Pakra, do that, get your major papers and whatnot, and you measure as a company. And with overnight, you all have an increased net worth in value. All of you that own shares in that major, because you have increased the amount of assets owned together jointly. Then there's also going public. So at a certain threshold, even if you're a private company, you are required by the law to be able to put your company on the stock market. So you could own a company that now goes public. Remember, at first you're the one investing in stocks and bonds, but sometimes you can be the person that actually takes the business to the market. There's what they call an IPO. Those of you who've heard that before. An IPO is what's known as an initial public offering. So you could actually take your business there. Thank you. Kasiko says you're following. So that's another way you could invest. Let me make progress to the eighth thing. Okay. I think some people are facing some challenges with their network. Thankfully, I'll be generous enough to share that. Enterprise building. So enterprise building, this is something that I do a lot. Sometimes your best way to invest is in actually investing in building your business, okay? Rather than you just putting your money in the bank. Sometimes what you can do is actually start a business. If you're like me and you love ideas, you are fascinated by them, you're fascinated about problem solving, you have built your skills in management, or you know how to build the right teams, you can actually start by investing in enterprises, in enterprise building. Or and this can mean that you actually invest in incubating some ideas. Okay, this could be ideas or ideas of other people, and you work with them, partner with them to incubate those ideas and grow them to a point of stability. Or sometimes you accelerate them to a place where they can actually be acquired and whatnot. So if you have an interest in building enterprises, I think Robert Kiyosaki shares the quadrant, okay, where he talks about the S, the E, the B, and the I. And one of the things, the B's are people who start and run businesses. So you could also invest in beginning to build businesses. For example, Make Life has got shares. It's a limited company by shares. So I built it and it earned me interest. I've got a number of shares in Make Life today. And if I decided to liquidate some of my shares, I would get instant cash from that because of the value that it has. So sometimes you may actually build businesses. You can actually accelerate them. You can oversee certain businesses as well. And let me make progress to the last thing because of time. Minority interest, okay? Minority interest. So what if you don't want to be the one to start up that particular business? Well, there's what you call minority interest. Let me give you an idea of what minority interest. It means an entity or a person that owns less than 50% of the shares in a business is known as a minority interest shareholder. The one who owns more than 50% is known to be what they call having controlling interest. So there's controlling interest and there's minority interest. Sometimes you can invest in minority interest. Currently, I've got investments in different companies where I own different amount of shares, 13% shares, for example, and I'm currently negotiating a deal for another company where I'm to become a minority interest shareholder. What happens is that at the end of the year, you get paid dividends. They're paid to you based on the profits that company has made. So sometimes you may actually, for you to get minority interest, there are different ways. You can get that by buying in with some of your money, or sometimes by being able to, and that's what is known as sourcing. So they're looking to source capital, you provide that capital, and you get an exchange of equity share. So whether you do that as you or as a company, as a business, you will retain some shares in terms of equity in that company. So when you talk of minority interest, you talk about equity stakes that you own. Sometimes you also need to have in mind what they call due diligence. You need to run some of those businesses through your own due diligence checks. I've got a list of due diligence that I do before I invest in a company, checking their assets, how long they've been in business, whatnot. And then when I find out that they're doing fine, I can invest in them. Or advising. Sometimes I exchange my skills and abilities to grow companies as value to be able to get some of those interests. Because sometimes it's not just money that will get you in. Sometimes it's the skills that you have. It's the abilities that you have. It's a portfolio that you've built that goes for you. This marks the end of our session tonight. And those of you that want to get in touch with me, remember, in these meetings, I can only do just enough. Oh, thank you, Chishimba says, this is knowledge. Knowledge is powerful. Thank you so much, Chishimba. And trust me, this is going to empower you. Please make sure you practice. You will not be the same after this session. If you remain the same, I'll be very, very shocked. The miracle here is going to be you remaining the same. The miracle is after today's session, 2 years from now, and you're not doing fine, that will be the miracle. Trust me. And I hope you valued this. If you need more help, more detail, I can only share just enough. You can always reach out to Make Life, and we can be very reasonable in how we can take you through it. Sometimes we may actually offer you an option where you pay us later, but you can always get in touch with us. And don't if that's in case you don't want to go this on your own, you already need fast tracking. For example, I'm already giving you guys a few documents that you can read into. But that's already value I'm giving you because you're part of the ICD entrepreneurs. But if you want further value, get in touch with me, get in touch with the team through the other number, and we can get to help you. Hope you've enjoyed. I can get a few questions before I end today's session, if that's okay with everyone.